Look, I'm just going to tell everybody we're worried that the rain's going to knock us off. So we skipped the intro. We're going live. It's Howie Cheney over there in the middle. Our friend, always around. We're always around him. Um, actually, got my daughter through the ninth grade. Coach Cooley, how are you going today?
I'm doing well, guys. What about y'all?
I'm just really proud you got her through. I got her through a class.
She didn't need much help. I'll be honest with you. She didn't need a lot of help.
She's a she's a pistol. Uh, and coach, thank you for putting her to work with the football team. Yeah, she's
Oh yeah.
about it, man.
Yeah, man. We're excited about it. She's done a really good job with us so far, and I know she's eager to do it. So that's easy.
Yeah, it's my fault for raising her in every press box in the South, and but she loves the game. And
Yeah.
of all the games she could fall in love with, the game of football to me is one of the great ones.
Oh yeah. 100%. We're glad to have her.
Well, coach, Howie, I'll come to you. I just want a couple of questions. Coming off a disappointing year, coach, and I think 2 years ago we had such a great year at Hixson that the anticipation of what was going to happen last year was really high, and just almost cursed. It felt like 3 or 4 games I thought we had won, and one in particular we're up, I think 10 with 2 minutes to play, and it just like things you don't see every day happens. Um,
Yeah.
it was kind of a strange year.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely one that I think every year, coach, there's always something that I hadn't seen that before, right? So I mean, there was a couple things that we had happen last year that happened that way. We're not making excuses about any of that. We failed to finish, and that's been big thing for us this offseason as far as, small details matter. Everybody says that, but, we're really taking a different approach as far as practice and kind of what we're pushing them to do in the weight room to try to ensure that we don't blow any of those leads again. We're gonna work finishing in practice more. One of the big emphasis 2 years ago coming into my second year was starting fast because I felt like that first year we had to win in the fourth quarter every time it was a close game, and we couldn't start fast. So we
Yeah.
wanted to try to start fast last year, and we didn't spend as much time finishing. And a lot of times we did. We started fast and just come up short a couple times. And just it's on us as coaches. Is we just weren't disciplined enough. The kids weren't disciplined enough, and that's our fault. So best believe we're making some adjustments this offseason to figure that out.
Coach, if I'm doing my math right, we led in 7 or 8 games at different points, and we start well early. Um, and two, I do think did depth play a part of it in any way?
Yeah, it always does. When you're in high school football, attrition always, it's always a lot of times it's who's the healthiest. And I'll just be honest with you, a lot of times, especially up front, we were not very healthy at all. We played again, not making excuses. We played 4 different centers last year. 2 of them were freshmen. We played a different set of 5 on the offensive line all 10 games. So it was a battle to see who could really just play that week. A lot of times, and no fault of their own. A lot of the kids wasn't ready to play high school football. We threw about 3 freshmen. We ended up starting 3 freshmen in there at different points of the year. They weren't ready, but they stepped up and did the best they could, and I think they're better for it now for having to go through that. But we don't like to blame stuff on injuries, and I would never do that. But I've never had since I've been at Hixson, I've not had a full healthy team any of the how many games that we play. I've been a part of 21 games. I've never had a full healthy roster any of those games, so you can't really make excuses on that. But we were pretty banged up at a lot of different points last year.
Well, Coach, I don't know if this was intentional, but you took one of those 4 centers and made a quarterback out of him. I'd say you got a pretty good chance of staying healthy at quarterback.
Yeah, I hope so. Jake's a kid who had played quarterback before. Whenever I first got here, he was a sophomore, and he had played quarterback his freshman year and had some JV run. He didn't really get a full season because he and Luke were in the same grade. So before I got there, they were kind of splitting time at quarterback. And then we kind of made Luke, was going to be our starter of his sophomore year, and Jake was going to get a full season of JV that year. And obviously Luke got hurt. Chase had to go to quarterback, and Jake got a season of JV during that year and ended up gaining about 30, 35 pounds the next off season. And just thought he was too good of a football player to keep behind Luke. So, we had a few conversations with him, and hey, if you want to play, man, we're going to need some help up front, because we knew we were going to be young and inexperienced. And he's a gritty kid, really does whatever you want him to do. Physical, wants to hit. You saw him in a scrimmage the other day running at quarterback, wants to hit people, right? So we moved him to offensive line, which is not a natural position for him, but we needed help there, and he stepped up. And I think he'll tell you that he's probably glad to be back at quarterback. But he did. He started center. He started left tackle for us. Played defensive line as well. Just really has done anything we wanted him to do. Actually moved him to tight end at the end of last year, so he's played about every position you could play.
Coach, for some reason you've had to do that with several kids, is play them all over the place, and part of that's due to the injuries. But when I tell Howie, I'll come to you after this question. When I tell people a center is playing quarterback, this kid can throw it a bit too, and it's not like, I compared him to Tebow at Florida a little bit. He's very physical and throws it enough that when you want to stretch the field, he can.
Yeah, he's actually a very talented thrower, and I think the best trait of Jake's, it's obviously he's hard nosed, but he's coachable. He's extremely coachable. He's very meticulous and detailed in his approach to whatever he's doing. If you tell him to jump 3 times and then stand on your head 4 times, he's going to do it to the T, and then he's going to ask you what's next. So that's kind of the kid he is, right? He's very process driven. It's got to make sense to him before he's very efficient at it. And that's something that we've done in the off season, is trying to make everything make sense to him. I think his sophomore year kind of got, me coming in being new, and it's a lot different system, kind of, was overwhelming a little bit for him. And he's kind of settled down and he was our MVP. We did some awards for our spring, and he was our offensive MVP just because of the leadership that he showed. He ran the offense very, very well. I mean, you saw him operating and the shifts and motions and stuff. He was very, very good at that. And then he made the throws, like you said, he needed to make, and didn't turn the ball over. So I think that's something that he's going to do. Is he's not going to get you beat. He's going to take what's there. He's not going to take an unnecessary risk. He's just not going to get you beat. He's smart. He's a smart quarterback, and he's really coming into his own right now.
Hey, Howie, I don't know how Coach Cooley saw that on film, because I was filming the game for him, and I kept forgetting I was filming. And every now and then, they might be a play or two took off, but that was just me. Howie, go ahead and ask Coach Cooley some questions.
Coach Cooley, a pleasure meeting you. And with you having a former lineman / center at quarterback now, do you have to kind of calm him down a little bit to where he's not as a physical player as he wants to be because of his value to the offense?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple stories. It's really just a story of our spring practice. So I told him before in January, February, I said, look, you're going to have to run the ball for us. I said, we all know, everybody can look at you and tell you're not a speed demon. You're not going to be juking people out. So you're going to have to get downhill. And he's like, oh yeah. He really wanted to be a part of that. So I told him in spring, I said, look, we usually let our quarterbacks be dead, and we don't hit the quarterback in practice. But I said, they're going to hit your hind end. I said, you're going to just might as well get ready. I said, and he said, Coach, I don't want a white jersey. He said, I want to be hit. He said, I need to get used to it. So he's the first one up in Oklahoma drills. He's grabbing the ball and he's running right at people. He's trying to figure out how to run with the ball because he's never really done it. And I have to explain to him, it's okay if you make a guy miss. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to just seek a daggum collision every time. And he was getting his legs taken out because he was just trying to collision every time. I said, look, it's okay to be physical, but I had to kind of talk him back into, it's okay to make a guy miss every now and then. So, physicality is part of his nature, and I don't want to take that away from him because he's good at that part, right? You don't want to completely take it away from a kid, but I don't want him to take unnecessary blows either. So, I want him to do what he does well, and then I want him to be smart about it as well. So yeah, we did have to tame him back a little bit.
Yeah, it's got to be a big difference from giving the most valuable person the ball every play to being the one receiving the ball every play.
Yep. Yeah, he's the most selfless kid. He reminds me a lot of Chase Bernard, kid we coached a couple years ago, and just whatever you want him to do, he's going to do it. So he's really selfless, and he's really, really detailed in what he like. Whenever he never snapped last year before until we told him he was going to center, and then he become a master at his craft, and he was really good at it. And I told him, because we're breaking in a new center this year who played guard for us, and he was actually teaching our center how to snap the ball to him. I said, this is the first time I've ever had a quarterback that could give actual advice on how to snap the ball and be correct about it. So I just let him coach him up, and we've not had really an issue with it since. So yeah, it's definitely a different skill set and different mindset for sure.
You actually answered my next question by that. I was going to ask you if he was actually able to help the offensive line,
Yeah.
as far as what to do, where to move, which step they need to take first.
Yeah, it's really funny that he's played. I mean, he's really played besides wide receiver because he's too white and slow to play out there. That's what I tell him. But he's played everywhere, and he's got a good memory as far as like how the schemes work, and he knows, like, he could tell the guys, he could see something, and he could just kind of walk them through it. Now he's not a yeller by trade, by just crawl down somebody's throat kind of guy, but he'll lead by example, and he'll give them a tidbit every now and then. And the kids respond well, and if he speaks up, they listen. So they take it well from him, and they know he was in the trenches with him last year, so he knows what he's doing.
Coach, let me ask you this. Coming into the summertime, do you go back and watch some of the game film from this past season to kind of self scout yourself, along with maybe some of the teams that you may be playing again?
Oh yeah, that's something I try to do during the season as well, as self scout about every 3 weeks during the season. That way I can pick up on different tendencies during season. But yeah, during the off season, I look at myself a lot, and I try to go back to what down and distance was, what situation, what part of the game, kind of remember, and I can kind of remember the flow of the game too, because I call a lot based on flow, and not as much analytics as I do like just feel of the game. That's why I'm on the field. A lot of offensive coordinators are up top. I'm on the field because I got to feel like I'm in the game with them. So I try to revisit that spot and kind of figure out what I'm doing. And of course, naturally as a human, you're like, crap, I screwed that up. I don't know what I'm doing right there. But, I do that a lot. But yeah, I'm always trying to learn and try to better myself for those kids out there.
Coach, you're a OC, and we know what the offensive coordinator normally does. You're also the associate head coach. Tell us a little bit about your responsibilities as far as being the associate head coach.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that Coach Rivers trusts me with. I schedule the practices. I run those for Coach. I do a lot of I help him out with some fundraising stuff. He does the bulk of that, but I help him out with some of that stuff. And I schedule, our 7-on-7s. For the most part, he'll do some, but he's given me free, reign to schedule scrimmages and 7-on-7 type stuff. And, I've pretty much, if he were to not be at the game somehow, then I pretty much, that's just a fancy way of saying that I would be in charge. If he were to not be able to make it, if he got sick or something, we don't want him to not be there, but, he just kind of trusts me with a lot of different things. He'll bounce ideas off of me, even during the game situation, kind of game managing type stuff. But I really, my biggest asset, I think, is probably just my organization for practice and for, game situations and stuff like that. I'm kind of that guy that does all that.
That's cool. Sounds like you got a lot of hats to wear on Friday nights and even the weeks before.
Oh yeah.
Randy will come to you after this.
He,
You
wa- he,
mentioned
won't,
7.
he won't give me a headset to talk to him on the sideline, though. That's good during the game.
Yeah.
You mentioned 7-on-7s. I know you you carry probably quite a few players, but how many do you normally carry to those 7-on-7 matchups to go against the other team?
Yeah, so it kind of differs and where you go. This weekend we're going to UTC and we're going to play in their little tournament that they have, and they only want us to take about 20 players. So we'll kind of narrow it down to 20 guys that could help us. And those are tournament style, which are not really my favorite to do. But the kids like to compete. So we go in the tournament style, and we only take about 20 because every kid that you could take is not going to be able to play. I mean, they'll just be wasting time. And you don't want to waste their Saturday, their Friday, the day we're not going to practice. You don't want to waste that day for them. Just have them stand there. But we'll take, if we're just doing a work day with, let's say, us and another school get together, we want to work, we'll take all of our kids except for our linemen. And some instances we'll take our linemen with us. They'll bring theirs, and we'll do lineman work, on a different spot of the field, and then we'll do everybody else, and we'll get our young kids involved as well. So it kind of differs, but if we're in a tournament style, we'll just take about 20 players. If not, we'll take pretty much the entire roster.
You may want to carry the lineman with you, taking a center to the quarterback. You may want to move a guard to a running back or something. You may want to take them all.
Yeah, I don't think I ain't thought about that. We don't have enough linemen yet, but if we did, I would definitely give some of them hogs a ball.
Randy,
we need a fullback.
Hey, it's the quarterback. That's who the fullback is. Watch him play. He's a wing T fullback. He just plays quarterback.
I was starting to say a single wing fullback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coach, athletic at running back, wide receiver. Again, athletes are all over the place. Do you have to? I won't say use them better, but do you have to get them more opportunities and touches?
Well, I think there's always two sides of the sword, right? It's a double-edged sword when you kind of talk about athletes. And last year, we were the most deep at receiver that I've ever been in my career. I don't know if I'll ever be that again. And I think I think we had too many. I think we had too many. So trying to find time for all them kids to play, and different situations, like our probably all around best receiver probably did not play receiver much last year at all, and he was the safety region safety of the year and all-state safety, and he's coming back for us this year. Best believe he'll be at receiver, but we don't have as much depth at receiver this year, but I think the kids that we do have are pretty good. I think Ryan Burney's who I'm talking about at receiver. I think he's going to be a stud. He's a natural down the field receiver. He's about 6'2", 190, 195 pounds. He runs the intermediate routes great. And, he's tough to guard on the post. And if you give him a jump ball, he's probably going to come down with it 9 times out of 10. It's not even a 50-50 ball with him. You got higher odds of getting that ball. So I think where we're gonna have less at receiver is those like the Tarek Reeses that we had, who catch the screen and go do something with the screen. We won't have as many of those type kids, but we'll have a couple of those kids, and then we'll have the down the field threat. And like you said, at running back, we're going to have about 3 really good ones.
You took the words out of my mouth when I was talking about Bernie. What a catch radius he had.
Oh yeah.
Over at Ottawa, it just seems like things he shouldn't catch, he caught.
Right. Yeah. He the thing about him is his whole career so far, and especially since I've been there, he's not, and he would tell you this, he's not been a very good practice player at all. And then when the lights come on, he just makes plays. And the thing that I've seen about him starting in spring is he's becoming a really good practice player. It's his last go around. He's becoming a leader. He's taking it serious. And that's why you saw him at the Ottawa scrimmage make all them plays, is he would make those plays and then he would drop an easy one. Like he didn't drop any. He caught that ball down the field. I wish he would have scored on it, but he got hopped down. He tripped up a little bit, but he's a special talent at athletic ability. He's one of the most athletic kids I've ever coached. his brother is at number 24, that running back we had that was running really well, and he's a freshman, going to be a sophomore, and he don't look like one. I mean, he's about 6'1", 6'2". He's about 170, 180 pounds, and he can run now. He's going to be a good one too.
Coach, last year, and I don't know if it was just trying to get the playmakers into the game. I go back to Chattanooga Prep. That just seems like you would get the playmakers in some space or get a playmaker somewhere, and it was a drop ball or it was a misdirection. By scaling back some, do you feel like you're putting that trust in a fewer guys, but your core knows who they are now 100%?
Right. I mean, I think there's some valid points to that argument. I mean, I would agree that could probably definitely do it. That could be the case. I think the biggest issue with us last year offensively overall is we couldn't run the ball very well. I mean, we were okay at times, but we couldn't line up and say we're running it and we're going to get 4 yards, and we couldn't do it. And a lot of that was, like we were talking about earlier, the attrition on the offensive line and the youth. You know, we weren't very good up front because we didn't have the same starting five the whole year there. I mean, how could you get any continuity if you don't ever have the same guys up there? You know, so we weren't very good there. You know, at running back we were okay, but I think a lot of it showed because we weren't very good up front. We could have been a lot better at running back if we had a consistent five that were playing up front, you know. And I think just us changing some stuff up, you know, I'm not going to get too heavily in scheme, but, you know, us figuring out a couple plays that didn't work for us, taking them out and adding some new wrinkles in, I think is just going to help us and help the type of running backs we have. Our whole thing this offseason is we got to be able to run the ball. Because if we run the ball well, then we know that we're going to be able to throw it down the field. I feel really confident that we're going to be able to do that, but it can't be all we do. Like you saw last year, is probably the best quarterback in the history of Hixson was Luke, probably, and it added up to 3 and 7. I mean, that's what happened, and it wasn't his fault. It was a collective. We couldn't run the ball. That matters. I mean, you know, you watched all of our games. We probably threw the ball better than anybody we played.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably did. But at the end of the day, if you can't run the football, you can't win the close games.
You know, Coach, I was going to ask you about this, and I feel like you get one of the harder interviews because you're right. I watched all 10 of your games last year. A little bit of me last year felt like, too, we were looking for Coco, and Coco had graduated college football.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of nobody stood around, nobody waited on him, but Coco was such a phenomenal athlete that, you know, what was a 10-yard gain for Coco turned into a 2-yard gain.
Sure.
Was it mentally tough on you as a play caller and the kids?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier when you have Coco in the lineup. I mean, all you got to do is give him the ball. But, you know, I don't think on me, like I want the pressure on me. I don't ever get too high or low on the sideline, so I don't really get rattled too much. So we try to find a way, you know, maybe in the back of the kids' minds that, you know, maybe he wasn't there. I don't know. I think 2 years ago, whenever he was suspended a couple games, I think you saw that whenever he wasn't in the lineup. I definitely think kids were looking for him and he was on the sideline not being able to play. I definitely think that was the case. And maybe there was from a few kids last year, but, you know, there's a whole different vibe and mindset with this bunch that we've got this year, and it started in spring. And I told you before we went out to that spring scrimmage, I said, I don't know how we're going to play, but I guarantee we're going to be a lot more physical than we have been. Because you could see it in practice. Those kids really, you know, I think, and there's an elephant in the room here. We've had several kids transfer out of Hixson. I mean, that everybody knows that, and it is what it is. And I think the kids we got now kind of took it personal, and I think, you know, they're still friends with all them, but I think it galvanized them a little bit. I think it brought them together, and I think they want to make it as special as they can make it together. The guys that stayed, I think they really taken pride into that. So I think I don't think there's going to be any more Coco ghosts. I don't think there's going to be any other ghosts of guys that played here that may have transferred or may have graduated. I think these guys are ready to just see what this version of the Hixson Wildcats do.
And Coach, I picked that up the other day, and I'm close friends with Luke. He was one of the kids that left, and I know you had a kid at Cleveland and stuff. But and kids leave for a lot of different reasons. Some of them valid, but and some of them left because they had to help for their family. But it seemed like even in warm-ups and just being on the sideline, the kids had something. I'll come to you after this, Allie. The kids had a renewed vigor in being a Hixson Wildcat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, any kid that I've ever coached, I love them. Right. And I don't hold it against any of the kids that left. Like you talked to Luke last week, and he and I still talk all the time. And he knows that I love him, and I'll do anything for him and any of the other kids that I've coached. And if they decide to move on, then that's their thing. Right. But, our kids who they played with, they're going to wish them the best and hope the best for them. But at the end of the day, they think people are going to doubt them because who left. That's what they think. Yeah. And I think there's a chip on their shoulder. Maybe they don't. I don't know. It's whatever. I mean, we'll see what happens. We still got a long way to go, but I think these kids are it's a different mentality. There's a little bit of edge to them. There's a chip on their shoulder. I think they're ready to go. I think they're ready to go get in a fist fight, in between the whistles, right? I think they're ready to be physical and just let the chips fall where they may.
And Howie, Udawa, who struggled last year terribly, and Hixson, of course, met in a spring game, and coach at both teams vastly improved.
Yeah, definitely. I think Coach Moody is a really good coach, and he's a good friend of mine up at Udawa, and I think he does a tremendous job. And they look completely different than they did. I think he's gotten a lot out of them. In the short time that he's been there, they were really big. I don't remember seeing a lot of them kids play. I think he got some out of the school, out of the hallways to play, and it's really helped for them. And you never know about spring scrimmages. I mean, they look completely different than a actual game, and we're playing different formats, and it's kind of like who scores win is during the format, whatever. And I think, and just talking with Coach, I told Coach Moody, I'm like, look, we're not going to try to win the daggum scrimmage. I mean, we're going to try to work the plays that we're trying to work, and he knew that. And we had a weird format and how we did stuff, and so I mean, we don't really pay attention to that. That's the score of it, and that doesn't really make a difference to us at all. But we got good work in, but they were a lot better, and I thought we answered the bell, and I think on film we played a lot better than I thought we did whenever we were out there.
Coach, just people in the right places, and that was for a spring game. That's one of my biggest things is, are we getting lined up straight? Are we getting where we need to be? And that's what I look at, and we did.
Coach, here we are, early June. Summer just kind of started. I'm not going to ask you to name any names, but have there been anybody that's just kind of caught your attention? You're like, wow, he could actually help us out this year compared to previous years.
Oh yeah, and I could name a few names, but we have a couple upcoming freshmen from the middle school that have caught our eye as far as like athletic ability wise. Of course, they're still a little small, but I mean, that doesn't really matter to us. But we've had a couple guys, in the secondary that have been very physical this year in spring that we didn't see them be last year. You could see a lot of kids' mentalities kind of flip. But I think a lot of the guys that we have and that we're going to count on are guys that we have counted on, but we do have 2 or 3 that, especially those young kids coming up from the middle school, I think they're going to really help us out. We don't ever want to just start a freshman just to start a freshman if they're not ready. But depth piece, like play in a varsity game, special teams, things like that, I think we have several kids that could help us out depth-wise. And I think we're deeper at offensive line than we have been, and a lot of it's because we played so many daggum kids last year. But I think we're 2 deep for sure, and then we've got about 3 more that we feel like we could get ready to go by August. And then, I think our less depth piece is at actually receiver. So, but, I think we're pretty deep at running back. I think we got 4 or 5 guys that can do it. Quarterback, we got 3 kids. We got Jake, obviously, and then we got 2 younger guys. And then at receiver, we still got to work on getting a couple kids in there. But there's some upcoming freshmen that have kind of stood out as far as receiver wise.
I've heard a lot of coaches talk about summertime is where you win the games at in fall. Um, do you feel like you're kind of ahead of schedule where you need to be at in the weight room and everything right now?
Well, I'll tell you, in the weight room, Coach Montgomery has done an incredible job for us, and I'll give you a couple numbers, and this was right before school let out, so this is before the spring game, so this is talking early May. We have 3 guys over 300 bench press or more. We have 3 guys over 500 squat. We got several guys over 225 power clean, probably 11, 12. And for us, and I don't know if that sounds like very much to y'all, but we only have about 43 kids on the roster. We don't have very many kids, and that's including the upcoming kids. So at the end of the day, during spring, we didn't have but 30 or so, 35 at the most. But we have made huge strides in the weight room. We got kids, and I think that's one thing you could tell on the field. You could definitely in practice is our collisions sounded. You could hear the collisions.
Yeah.
I mean, you could actually hear it like on the field, and I wouldn't say we were soft before. I would say we're a lot less physical than I want to be the past 2 years. But when we got to spring and those kids, it sounded like a shotgun. One of my coaches leaned to me, and he's from Whitwell, and he said, "This sounds like Valley football down here for the first time." I said, "Yeah, it does." And that's kind of what we wanted this spring is just physicality. And I think the weight room, you could definitely tell a big difference. And we are ahead of schedule in the weight room compared to where we have been. So yeah, to answer your question, I feel like we've had a really good offseason in the weight room.
How many 7-on-7 we talked about earlier? How many 7-on-7 practices or games are you going to have this year?
So we're going to go one before dead period. So we're going to go to UTC this weekend. That's the only one we'll have before dead period. And then after July 4th, after the dead period, we're going to have, we're going to go against Meggs. We got Sale Creek, and we got Lafayette, Georgia. So we got 3 more, so 4 total.
Do y'all ever down and out? I'm in Northeast Alabama, and we usually have. Sometimes we do actually have a school to go and play another school 7-on-7, but sometimes they'll bring 2 or 3 more schools in and have it like an all-day thing. Have you ever thought about doing that there at Hixson?
Yeah, we did that last year. We hosted one. We had Sequatchie County come up. We had Chattanooga Central, and we had Lafayette, Georgia. We had a 4-team thing, and we just did. How I like to do 7-on-7s is I don't really like like I told y'all earlier, I don't like the score and the contest, and you got to, because people try to win the game. They don't try to get better at what they're doing. So we set about 10 to 12 minutes up on the clock, and we let the offense put the ball wherever they want it, and they go with the tempo they want to go, and we got to defend it for 10 minutes, whatever they want to do. We can line it up, whatever situations they want to go, and then we'll switch it up after the time, and we'll go other team on offense, other team on defense. So that's kind of it's more of a work day whenever we do it. But yeah, we did that. We hosted 3 other teams last year, and it was a lot of fun. I think everybody got good work out of it.
You mentioned earlier watching the spring film and everything that you thought you looked really good when you on certain things and all that. On the parts that you didn't think you looked really good, was it because of the cameraman?
Hey, we don't watch his film. That's how bad it is. We use a different guy's film.
Yeah, I would have.
I'm just kidding.
Randy. Go ahead, Randy.
I'm not a cameraman. I'm barely a radio announcer, so I know my limitations. Coach, I did have a question, and this comes back to being a parent. And as I said, my daughter's working with you worked with her as on the girls team last year too. Coach Rivers pulled me to the side and he's like, said your daughter will be treated with, a certain level of respect we demand from all of our young men. And I think that said more to me about what Hixson football is than anything, is that a head coach, and you had said the same thing to me, a head coach, a couple of assistants, you're entrusting us with your kids. They're going to be safe and protected. That's something that makes parents a little more willing to let kids stretch out a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think the whole idea is, for me, I treat them like my own, right? So I'm going to love my own, but I'm going to also get on their hind end if they don't do right, right? So, I mean, it goes both ways. There's discipline involved there, and not so much Annalie, obviously, but, with the kids that we got, if they ain't going to do right all the time. They just ain't, and you got to understand that. So, I mean, you got to use each opportunity as a opportunity to improve, right? So, that we just hold them to a high standard because we want them to be quality young men. Whenever they leave our program, we want them to be quality young men. We want them to be really good fathers, husbands, members of society. And the only way we can do that is to stay on them. I mean, I know I told them, I said, y'all get tired of hearing me yell at y'all. I said, hate me now, love me later.
Yeah.
Hate me now, love me later. I said, whenever we, hopefully play for a region championship, and whenever you go out and be successful, you can hate me right now, but you'll love me later. So that's kind of the philosophy there.
Coach, I know, and we appreciate you. You got some stuff going on. We appreciate you making time for us. Hixson football, when Coach Rivers came, when you came 2 years ago, prior, it was an uphill battle. Do you still think you're battling to get kids interested in football in the Hixson area?
Yeah, I don't think it's just Hixson. I think it's kind of everywhere. I just think, I don't know where it all roots back to, but the more that they can stay in and play video games, and they do that during the summers, and they're not out playing ball, like it sounds like back in my day kind of thing, but we were outside playing, and if you're not doing that as much, then you're not going to have as many people interested in doing something physically active, right? You can stay in and play the game or whatever. You can turn it off whenever you want to. Whenever it gets hard, you can turn it off, right? And a lot of people are put off by it's a challenge, it's adversity, but it's also the ultimate game for life. I mean, they don't understand until they go through the whole program that how much it actually impacts their life. So, that's something that we try to talk about, is like, it's going to be better for you than just to play. Like, I want you to be as good as you can athletically, but even if you're not, you're still going to benefit so much from being a part of the program. But I think it's really hard to find kids that really are realistic about playing and that want to do the right thing. A lot of the kids that want to come out are the kids that don't want to do right in school. They won't do right, act right. I mean, they don't last very long with us. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're at 43 right now on the roster. We would really like to have about 50 or more. Just realistically, I think we could probably get to 50 at some point. But, we got who we need, you know what I mean? So we don't have a lot of dead weight around, because we go through such hard workouts and such hard practices that if they were just doing it just to be dead weight, then I don't know. I mean, they just really must love pain, because it's pretty tough.
Well, and you talked about it, and they're in our region. East Ridge last year got down under 30 kids at one point, and I think by the time we played them, under 25.
Yeah,
it's not just when you said that, it's just not Hixson. It came to the realization how many kids we saw at Red Bank, not the huge sideline that we used to see, and 25 at East Ridge. It just really has come down to kids not wanting to be involved as much.
Yeah, and it's a shame, because how much it, like we just talked about, how much it could really help them in the long run. Is not just about all that, but I mean, it helps you get prepared to go to work. I mean, we get up at we're practicing at 7:30 in the mornings right now. They obviously got to get out of bed and come, so that's just trains you to go to work. That's what they're doing. They're coming to work. There's just so many benefits that outweigh the negatives, and a lot of kids that play other sports act like they don't want to get hurt. They want to play football, they're going to get hurt. And I tell them, well, I mean, you can roll out of bed and tear your ACL. Like I'll tell them, if it's God's plan for you to get hurt, you're gonna get hurt no matter what it is. So that's kind of how we go about it.
Coach, I'm going to throw you over to Howie in just a second, and we'll wrap you up too. But you got involved with the girls' football team last year, and I'm a dad. My girl plays on it. I think it was one of the best things Hixson High School's had to come lately, arrive. And you saw so many young ladies get involved in it. They get a little taste of what that football discipline is with the flag football.
Oh yeah. They asked me to come out. I didn't just want to walk in there and be like, hey, you need to do this. Like I never want to do that. So Coach Doxey and Coach Malone, they both kind of come to me and asked if I would be willing to sit down with them. And I said, sure. I mean, I'll help them whatever I can do to help, and went out and watched them practice. And, the cool thing about it is how passionate all them girls are about it. They really took pride in being the first team there, right? I feel like that was a big thing for them, is to do that. And I thought they played really well, especially towards the midway to the end of the season. I thought they really kind of took off, had some growing pains like everybody does, but, they were just learning how to play. So, they learned and they did a really good job, and they took coaching well. I think that's something for females, like coaching girls. I think they're more willing to take coaching than boys are sometimes. And it's kind of easier to steer them in a certain direction. I think they'll, and that's that's the vibe I got from those girls, is they really all care. They love each other, and they love flag football.
Hey, Coach, you got strong armed up. I kept throwing your name out too. To his credit, he told me, he came to me, he goes, Coach Cooley came out, really tightened us up as a unit and made us understand that there's almost like your 7-on-7 plan. You've got to have a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a plan. You got to give a look, do something else. And I think that was a big help to those girls to understand that.
Yeah, and I think I didn't reinvent the wheel or nothing. We just kind of kept his same plays, and I kind of walked him through a couple little wrinkles that he could do with a couple of them, and I just kind of give him the like. For me, playing quarterback, I mean, it's the most important position. Obviously, everybody knows that. Is where your eyes at first, and that's why I was trying to get him with Alexis, who was playing quarterback. Is like, she can't be looking at everybody. Like, she's got to have her eyes set in one spot, right? And then I kind of taught him kind of how we read things, and I kind of worked with her a little bit, and she ended up playing a lot better just because her eyes were in the right spot. It wasn't nothing that I coached her to do; it was just put her eyes in the right spot. So, and she's a natural playmaker, and she did good. She did really well, and there's a lot of good players on that team, and a lot of them coming back next year too, so they should be even better.
Coach, and I can't let you go to Howie without talking about it. I've got 12 years at Sequatchie County. You're a Sequatchie County alumni.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Morgan Montgomery was at Sequatchie County. Mm-hmm. A lot of ties to Valley football at Hixson football right now.
Oh yeah. That's, it'll always be who I am deep down, no matter, I've been to a lot of different places. At the end of the day, I mean, that's who raised me, right? That's where I'm from. That's my hometown. And, I love it, and I love everybody there still, and still got a lot of good friends that are on the coaching staff. And I still know a lot of the kids, even though I didn't coach those kids. It's a small town, so I think I know some of their parents, and I know a few different people, but it's definitely a special place. It's a place that I love, and I always will love, and I hope I always wish them the best.
Yeah, and it almost became that. I hate to say it, but Hixson's almost got that feel of family going, where it really has become a different environment for Hixson football the last 2 years.
Yeah, we got a long way to go with it. It's kind of scratching the surface of what it could be. So we just kind of hope to keep snowballing in a positive direction and keep building.
Howie, I don't know if I'm a positive direction, but they got one loud fan, and that's me. I say loud, but I say too loud. We've got a player from 2 years ago that does the color with me, and it's nice to have a young person want to get into play-by-play too. So go ahead, Howie.
Coach, we appreciate your time. As everybody can see, you're in a vehicle now. You're at Bible school at the moment,
Yeah.
I think, and
Yeah.
we appreciate the time. And we're going to let you get out here real quick. Looking forward to this season. Best of luck. And you know as well as I do, if there's anything that we can do for you, just let us know.
Yes, sir.
And so you got the season coming up. Here we are in the summertime. Do you try to spend a little extra time with the family during the summertime, because once fall rolls around, you're not going to be with them very much?
Yeah, I think, stupidly enough, it took me a while to realize how to delegate my time, because I am invested, I am passionate about what I do, and I feel like I always got to be working or I'm going to lose something. So I figured out something a couple years ago is I get up super early whenever they ain't up, and I'll go in, if I'm going to school or if I'm going to practice, I'll get up an hour or more early, and I'll spend a lot of time working there and make sure I get that extra hour that I think I need when I get home. So I'll go ahead and start that early, and then I'll get my work day done, and then when I go home, it's no football. It's just not, unless I get a call or something. It's no football. I get to spend time with my 3-year-old and my wife, and I think that's probably the best thing that I've done. And in my head, I don't know, I was probably just selfish and thinking I'm gonna get passed up, or and I haven't. It's been the best thing for me is just to spend time with him, and that's not just the summer. That's through the season. That's through the off season. So that's something that I will continue to do. Is I'll go ahead and get up early. I'll bite the bullet. I'm kind of a morning person anyway, so I'll get up an hour earlier than I should, and I'll go spend time really working hard whenever nobody's up, and I'll go ahead and get it done then, and everything I need to finish up so I can get home and spend time with them.
My last question for you, and we'll turn you back over to Randy and let you get back to Bible school. When Randy mentioned the flag football, helping the girls out, a smile came across your face. Is
Mhm.
that something that you think maybe you'd like to do a little bit more of?
I mean, we'll see. I enjoyed it when I was out there. I like being competitive. It's really cool to go to them games and see them get excited when they did the right thing, and whenever they won, whenever they made a play. So I think I would definitely be around if they wanted me to be around. Now I don't know how much, we'll see, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't a burden or anything to me, so I enjoyed watching them play and helping them out.
Thanks for your time tonight, and like I
Yes,
said,
sir.
anytime, just let us know. We'll do what we can to help you out.
Thank
Randy.
you.
Coach Cooley, first of all, you know how much I think of you, and I just, not with you being a coach, I need you to realize you were my daughter's favorite teacher, and that says a lot about you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I don't know. I just consider myself. I think I'm a decent teacher. I'm a mediocre teacher. I just think I have really good relationships with the kids, and that's something that I think I'm probably a little better teacher than I think I am, because that's what all the admin that I've ever worked for told me. Funny story. I'll give a really quick story. When I was at Sequatchie, you know how people think that just football coaches are just in there just to give out a movie or something. So I'm teaching balance and chemical equations. So one of the new assistant principals comes in there to observe me, and I'm up there on the board and I'm talking through it. The kids are writing it down, and it was going well. And all the kids walked out, and she said, "You're actually a good teacher." I said, "What's that supposed to mean?" She's, "Oh, I didn't mean to offend you." I said, "Look," I said, "I'm messing with you." She said, "But I'm just so surprised." I said, "I just try. Like I believe how you do anything's how you do everything. I'm not going to slack up being a teacher and do football coaching 100 miles an hour. I'm going to try to do the both of them the best I can. I'm a better football coach than I am a teacher because I love it more, but I try. I try to be a good teacher and have good relationships with the kids." So.
And you teach a science-related program at Hixson too. What brought you to science?
Well, my bachelor's degree was it's a science degree, it's audio production, but it was a bachelor's in science, and that was the easiest way for me to get into school is to teach some science. So I went and took my praxis Tommy Lane, whenever he was the principal at Sequatchie County, ended up hiring me on a waiver, and I got my license in a year, and kind of took off from there.
Coach, appreciate your time, and go in there with Knox and make sure you haven't tore anything up, and make sure you need to be there. But we appreciate you taking an hour with us, Coach.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all for everything y'all do for high school football. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Thank y'all.
Howie, Coach Cooley is a great guy. When I say my daughter looks up to Coach Cooley, my daughter looks up to Coach Cooley. My daughter looks up to Coach Rivers. We're lucky here in the Hixson community to have so many great football coach, teachers, leaders. And that conversation Coach Rivers had with me was it just reassuring that a coach pulled me aside and said, if your daughter wants to work with the boys football team, she's going to be treated like she's my daughter. And just to hear those words out of three different coaches' mouth, that means a lot to a parent.
Yeah, it does, and that means that they got a strong hold and a grip on their team and their players to have enough confidence to be able to say that, because a true person, true man or woman, whatever, is not going to just say what they want you to hear. They're going to, when they say it, they're going to mean it.
They did. We got another one coming tomorrow night that I think's a quality human being and a quality teacher and a quality coach. And I think Sylvania made a great hire and Coach Waldrop.
Yeah, I chat with him again today. He's still good to go. So looking forward to it. It's going to be kind of interesting. He's not much of a media person, but when I asked him to do it, he said, yeah, he said, I'm not a PR guy, but he said, I'll be more than happy to give it a shot. So we're going to see how it goes tomorrow night. And I told him it's going to be a piece of cake. It's not going to be no issues. So, looking forward to it and get to meet the new head man of the Rams.
Yeah, absolutely. And Phil Harris is on vacation this week. I just saw him and Chrissy was at a concert. And they live for their concert season. So I'm sure they're having a good time. And then me and you will be on tomorrow with Coach Waldrop and Thursday with KC Kazana and heading towards the big Metrodome in Dalton and the big Wrestling for the Cause show a week from Saturday. Something I think you and I both plan on being there and very excited to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to try my best to be there. I've got it marked down to be there. I'll just put it like that. But the way the weather's been here lately, I hadn't been getting out very much because I don't know when the storms are going to come through and not. So, not that I'm afraid of the storms. It's just my little pickup truck and the wet roads don't get along too well.
Hey, and one more announcement, Howie. I've said it on a couple of shows, but Hixson Wildcat football back on Friday nights. Brought to you by Moses Landscaping. Jace Moses, of course, is my color man. He stepped up and is going to come back for the second year, and we're going to give it a try again. Last year was, when you don't have a radio station and you don't have really the equipment and you're just trying to figure out how to do it in a media base that you don't know what to do. We learned a whole lot last year,
Well, that's good. You gotta try it just to see what happens. And if what's the old saying? If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Absolutely. And I didn't know whether to ask to come back or they were going to tell me to come back. But I text Coach Rivers and asked him if they wanted me to come back. And he said, well, we just thought you were. We didn't know we had to ask. And it's like, oh, well, I'll be back. And, again, I'm going to say it of Coach Cooley. He's a good father, good man, good teacher. Coach Rivers, Coach Waldrop, all the coaches we were privileged to have. We might even try to get the old Hall of Famer on before the year's over this year and see if we could get Coach Benefield to give us a little time along the way. But we're just blessed to have all those coaches on.
Something that Phil and myself and you, we all kind of hang our hat on is everyone we have asked has always said yes. And so,
Yeah.
they take time out of their busy schedule to make sure that they join us. It may not be but for a few minutes, but they take the time to do it because it means a lot to us, but they also know that it means a lot for their kids.
And we've never. I told someone the other day, Howie, and I don't mean to get off on this, but we are a break even proposition now. We make as much money as we lose, and I don't care where we go from here because everything we do now can be focused on the kids. The one thing that folks can do is like and follow us. That's how we pay the internet bill, the software bill. Like and follow River City Media. If you like the show, just jump on in there, subscribe. We won't charge you a thing for it. So we just try to be um, self funding, so we don't have to come on here and go, hey, give us $2, give us $3, pay us monthly for this. That's not what we want.
We're a true version of a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, I have a business license, but that's just to pay taxes. So, all right, Howie. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night with Coach Brad Waldrop. I look forward to getting to know Coach. And I'll say it again. We're lucky to have Shawn Cooley at Hixson High School.
Yeah, it seems like that Hixson is, and I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up people's rear ends and tell them all this. So I don't know nothing about Hixson, but hearing what you've said and hearing what other people said, it seemed like they finally got a coaching staff that wants to be there and wants to succeed.
And Hixson High School got a bad reputation a few years ago of just being, a bad mix of kids, and through realignment stuff, um, we have. Well, Coach said it. We have some rough kids. You're in the city. You're going to have a different. I think we grow up, or our kids grow up in an environment where you have a bigger spread of, Sylvania is a community, and pretty much everybody lives in Sylvania is, pretty much Sylvania. Well, here we've got kids that are brought up probably rougher than other kids, and we got kids from up on Big Ridge that's probably grown up privileged and with more than some kids, and so we get a more eclectic group of kids. And I know for my daughter, it's been very good. She's had a chance to leave and go to some magnet schools, and she chose to stay. And she's learned how to deal with people, if anything.
A quick story, then, and we'll get off of here. For some of y'all that knows me, knows that I go to a Falcons game once or twice a year, and
I got
yeah, you got Matt Ryan on, and I've made quite a few friends over there that lives in the Atlanta area, and they just don't understand, and it's hard for them to fathom that when Jamie Lee and Jeannie started at Sylvania in kindergarten, they stayed at the same school from kindergarten through 12th grade.
it's hard for me to fathom.
And they're like, oh, they're in the ninth grade. They'll be changing schools this year. No, they're in the same school. They're like, well, what's school enrollment? Around 800, 750, 800, somewhere in there. Oh, which class is that? No, that's kindergarten through 12th grade.
Yeah,
That's the whole school. I
yeah,
said the whole school is on one campus. They never leave. I said they're eating in the same lunchroom as the seniors eat, and they're like, wow, they're not used to that. And when I lived over there, I drove by school one day, and there were literally MARTA bus stops out in front of the schools because kids would bus in from one side of Atlanta to the other side
yeah.
just to be able to go to that school.
Well, even here, Lee Hixson is kind of blessed in that from Hixson Middle School to Hixson High School is about 50 steps. But where we went to elementary school is 8 miles away, So I can think of probably 10, probably not that many, 6 to 8 middle schools that are feeding into the 3 high schools and in the area. And you think about this, just where we're at, from Hixson, Red Bank, north, there's 5 public schools. There's Hixson, there's Red Bank, there's Sequoia, there's Sell Creek, and Saudi Daisy, and that's just on the smallest, less populated side of Hamilton County. And there's probably 3 high schools within a 5-mile radius of my house right now. We were given a choice if she wanted to go to a different high school. We wanted to go to Sell Creek. As long as I drove her, she could have went to Sell Creek, So, but it's all worked out for us, and I'm happy with Hixson High School has been great for us, and I'm happy with Hixson High School. So
That's great. That's all you can ask for.
Yes, sir. Howie, Coach Waldrop tomorrow, KC Kazana Thursday, and then this weekend on Sunday, kicking clinic from Isaac Smith of Pikeville University here on TV. You will have highlights of him kicking, and he'll be able to pause it, stop it, talk about it. So Isaac Smith from Pikeville University will be here Sunday. I think we're going to do it about midday and do a coaching clinic for anybody that wants to learn how or have an interest in learning how to coach or kick.
That's great. Good young man. We've had him on the show a couple of times.
Love Isaac. Another Hixson kid. For Randall Cunningham, Hixson High School, Howie Cheney, Sylvania High School, Randall Cunningham, Ray County High School, to be honest. So I thank you. Come back and join us. God bless, and talk to you soon.